Anyway, let me get going here. Tim Hamilton, Lürssen, director of Lürssen. I used to love to hear from Tim Hamilton when I was at IYC managing the sales team there. And Tim would call and say, hey, Bob, when's your next sales meeting? And I'd say, oh, it's in 2 weeks. He said, great, I'll be there. Give me 15 minutes. And Tim would show up and he'd go through all the things that are happening at FedShip and all that great stuff. And what's really cool about it was he was so interesting that it was Q&A from my brokers for about an hour and a half. And I didn't have to do a damn thing except just let Tim show up. I bet you if Tim would show up from Lürssen if you'd asked him to come to your sales meeting. He's now with Lürssen in North and South America, as well as providing shoreside support for Lürssen's cruising in the Americas. Interesting fact, he is training to row across the Atlantic Ocean with his three brothers. That's a real cool thing. Tim Hamilton, come on up here and introduce your other panelists, I guess. Oh, there you are.
All right. Guys, come on up. So this panel is about client loyalty. I don't know if there's going to be tricks. Hopefully no tricks, just tips. And we're really fortunate to have with us Michael Tabor, Jeff Stanley, and Darren Phillips, who I'll introduce in a second. That's Jeff's throne. Oh, that's what that's for. Jeff needs a throne? Is that? Because he is such a legend. Let me introduce Jeff then real quick before we say why he needs a throne.
Before you do that, don't ever joke with Paul. Because this is what you'll end up with.
This is what
a throne.
So good.
Jeff told me that he wanted one of those chairs on his face. Do we accommodate?
Yeah, we do. That's very good. Very good. So we've had some boom years in our industry the last few years, haven't we? And many of us have really profited from that, had some good times. We've also probably had quite a few new brokers or new colleagues enter into our industry. Normally happens in an upcycle. We also saw from the forecasts that the coming years will be either flat or a little bit of a pullback. And so from the feast years, now we all have to work a little bit harder and work a little bit smarter in order for us to continue to have success that we've had the last few years. So we're trying to learn from the best, and we are really fortunate to have some real legends. And we'll start with Jeff Stanley himself, the legend. So if you don't already know who Jeff Stanley is, he's been a broker for 43 years. And he started it with Gilman in 1999. Just told me yesterday, but this is the most amazing statistic. You sold over 1,000 boats in your career, 1,013 boats in his career, which I think is probably unprecedented. It's incredible. He's selling around 30 yachts a year. I can't even understand. I sell one yacht a year, so I don't even know how you do that. We have Michael Tabor, who also has had, in a similar way, an unprecedented career, but even though his career's been very short, he's only been a yacht broker for about 4 years. Him and his partner started Kitson Yachts only 2 years ago, and in those 2 years, they've sold some of the most notable brokerage boats, and I think y'all have sold over half a dozen major builds from 50 to, I think, over 80 meters. You have over half a dozen builds currently going in Europe, and that's within 2 years of starting a company. I mean, that's also mind-blowing performance. And Darren as well has been a yacht worker for 23 years, been in the industry almost all your life, and one of the top salesmen in the world for azimuths. So we have just some real legends here to learn from. So it's great. Thanks for each of y'all for giving your time. Look, there's a lot of people in our business that have found different ways of being successful, but just to put it out to you guys first, like starting with you, Jeff, what is it that has made you be able to be so successful selling so many boats and like handling that many clients, 30 boats a year? I mean, that's a lot of hand holding. How does that, what set you apart?
Well, I got 2 words: service and service. I service the hell out of my clients, and I tell my son and some people who work with me, you've got to make yourself invaluable. You've got to make the guy want to call you, need to call you, and just set yourself apart from other people. One of the ways that I do this is with a client service account. You list your boat with me, I say, give me 10 grand. I'm going to put it in my account. I'm going to pay your bills. When the guy doesn't wash your boat on time, I can yell at him, the diver, and I probably run $1 million a year through that client service account. I've got a client that I started with a 56 Sea Ray and a 64 Hatteras and a 72 Hatteras. And Bruce Seiler and I sold him a 84 Ocean Alexander, and I still do his account. He's just used to it. Of course, now he has a captain, but every time he comes down, the week after he leaves, I get a bill from Mega Yacht Cleaning, and I know how many jockey shorts he wore that week. I just, I've got a good relationship with this guy, and I take care of his business for him, and it makes it easier. And guess what? They will call you back. So
How can you give that level of service to so many people? I mean, it just takes man hours.
set up a QuickBooks account, and I work less than I used to, but I used to work 60, 70 hours a week. But you won't find me in the office on a Saturday or Sunday anymore. Maybe a boat show, but just maybe being organized.
Uh-huh.
I've got a machine going at this point.
Darren, what do you think has set you apart?
Well, I think we can all agree with Jeff. It's service, it's service. And then we take it the step further where, in my opinion, it's one of those where relationship is the epitome of the word that we all consider the highest level of integrity in this room. And then I have always said with my clients that it is a partnership that we want to turn it into. That with a partnership, it's one of those where we're always together all the time. Sometimes I'll be leading, sometimes I'll be beside you or behind you, but it's one of those where I'm never leaving that environment. And so within that partnership, it's not only with the owners, it's with the captains, it's with their family, their friends, it's with my own service shipyard, it is with the vendors. So it's one of those where it is that partnership in that lifestyle that they have really bought into, which is emotional based, which is the foundation of a strong relationship. And I think that really, in my opinion, it's the partnership and the dedication to that is what creates that loyalty from a long-term standpoint. That it's there's the friends and then there's the business side of it, but it's one of those where it's a partnership for life.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think the reality is it's a relationship. You're not friends, you're not family, you're not actually business partners, but you fall into this space of trust. Mm-hmm. And when I fall into that space of trust with these clients, they know that I'm putting their best interest forward. A lot of people say that, and we can easily say it, but really practicing that is a different story. When you practice it, the client knows it, and they retain loyal with you. So a big part of that, and it's hustle. Like the reality is I don't own the inventory. I'm not a dealer. I'm providing a service. So I have to provide the best value add service possible. And so what I consider myself as a problem solver. And effectively, you're taking a new entrant into a new market, and you have to solve that problem for them and figure out what's the best fit, the yacht, the program, the people. And if you can put those pieces of the puzzle together, that's recognized, and then that's rewarded with some loyalty. So I think it's kind of putting those pieces together and let it known that it's a long-term relationship. We're not in the transaction business. Occasionally it gets difficult. You have a lot of deals going on at once. You have to figure out which ones to prioritize. But to the extent that you have the availability and space in your head and heart to sort of create that relationship with each one of those clients, then you remain loyal. And I think that's kind of the secret.
I don't know. Darren, where do a majority of your clients come from? Is it through boat shows, through advertising?
It's interesting. So I started in the retail side of this in 2000. And so back in the day, I used to be a lot better with spreadsheets than I am today just because of the database systems we have. So I used to track everything meticulously year over year. And it's one of those where, new boat sales is really the more forte of MarineMax and what we do, where it's one of those where I can tell you that between the showroom and the boat shows, that's going to account for about 50% of leads that turn into sales. After that, it really comes down to referrals. And then the internet-based platforms is one of those where you're probably going to be right around that 20 to 24% of the business right now.
Internet-based is like the website.
The website.
MarineMax itself and all that.
Where, the consumers, we have more power in front of us anymore than we did today. So the dealerships, they're never going to be phased out, but they're not as important because I can go ahead and research and find whatever I want to on the internet. So they're going to come in with more information at their hands and knowledge, potentially understanding what they want. And then it comes back to building that relationship, and you can narrow down that sales cycle and focus really on their needs the most to find the right platform for them and create the opportunity.
Super. Jeff, how about yourself? Where do you find most of your business?
Believe it or not, it's repeat business and referrals. I think it's, I check it every year. It's in the above 90%. Kind of makes me wonder why I advertise, but I've got people that I've sold 20, 25 boats to,
Wow.
and over 43 years. But so it's doing the right thing, and the client will call you back. I mean, I get a couple calls a week over all those boats I've sold, wanting to list the boat again.
Wow.
And they know the program. Send money, put it in my escrow account. I'll manage it for you. We'll be good.
Smart.
Michael, you guys are, just started.
Yeah.
You're already running with, so many people. How did that happen?
So I can only speak for me personally. I started at boat shows. Every living, breathing person with a Rolex on a dock got to shake my hand. And actually, a funny story is Blake, who's in the crowd, is Brandon's brother, who now works with us. I didn't know at the time. I tried to sell him a boat too at the boat show. So I was just collecting leads and starting to build relationships and growing that network. And then I kind of just put in practice and worked really hard for you, harder than everyone else, put in a lot of hours, 80, 90 hours a week, a lot of commitment and drive towards succeeding. And so that now has landed me in a place where I'm solely working off of referrals. So, we don't have a huge boat show presence, but we work with the clients we work with really well and hard for them. And then that sort of grows the network. So I guess it's sort of a little bit of the old school ground and pound, just relationship business, picking up the phone, sending them boats, low tech kind of approach.
But, this is going to be a leading question, but surely, all of the young kids we get around here, they've all got their Instagram accounts and, they spend a lot of time, nurturing that following, getting the right image, getting the cool glasses on and doing the video walkthrough at the Monaco Yacht Show. And you guys are a very young company. I mean, you're the oldest guy at your company, I'm pretty sure, right? And y'all do have a good social media. I mean, how much time are you personally spending on social media?
So being the old guy of the company at 41, I don't spend any time, zero time with social media. It's just not how we connect. But, really, if we look back at our deal history or referral network, social media does a good job of informing our clients of what we have going on, but it doesn't necessarily turn into a new client, if that makes any sense. So at, $1 million plus, these are generally coming from relationships and people. So sort of the old school way, but social is great. Not knocking it, just not how we really actually do it.
Darren, is that what you find?
100%. I mean, MarineMax does an incredible job with the social media marketing standpoint. They have a team dedicated to that, so they do a fantastic job. Personally, myself, it's one of those where I'm in the same boat right there. I have a LinkedIn account, and that's it.
Jeff, we found out a secret about Jeff last night, so we might turn the page here.
Well, my daughter's an executive at Facebook.
Yeah, so really what it is
that doesn't help me, believe me.
Okay.
But she teases me about how much I'm on it. Most of it personal. If I'm at a shipyard in Italy or in Taiwan or Turkey, I'll probably post that. But honestly, my Gilman Facebook account is somewhat lacking. But I have sold 2 boats from Facebook.
Okay.
Both of them were actually old clients I'd lost touch with. It found me and bought boats. So,
all right. So
it reacquainting might be different.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a lesson learned, Jeff, from taking a very good client, like a story? I mean, you gave this generic story, or losing a client from not looking after somebody that could be kind of shared.
Yeah, I guess I can say losing a client. I had family, 2 brothers from Mexico that I had sold, up in the 20s of boats to. Had one of the boats in Miami show. It was the first time we were over on the west side of town. Wasn't greatly attended. They weren't thrilled with the outcome of the boat show. And I was I'd sold the boat to them for $1.8 million. And I think the boat was probably worth $1.2 million when we were trying to get that. And all of a sudden I get a call, says, we're gonna keep the boat. They gave it to a brokerage in Miami who sold it for $600. Oof. and then resold it for $1 million 2 weeks later. And maybe I was trying to take too good a care of them, but maybe I missed the hint that it was time for that boat to go. So listen.
Darren, how about yourself? You got any good stories of not taking care of a client or taking good care of a client?
I think, the story that he has is one of those where what Michael and I were talking about before we got up here on stage, and it kind of comes down to integrity, right? I mean, it's one of those where in this industry, in the market where we're at, I think integrity is absolute paramount. And integrity means having those difficult conversations with your clients that people don't want to have or would prefer not to have. And so it's staying above the board, which in the world that we live in today, where you can look at the social media aspect and call it the fast and the furious, it's easy to fall below that line, but it's staying above that board, having that integrity, which obviously, Jeff, you had. So it's one of those where never a fun experience that anybody wants to go through, but you can hold your head high at the end of the day, and you will always be an esteemed person in that client's mind. So
Right.
It's sometimes foregoing a paycheck today for the long-term benefit of what's right, where you'll always stay on the right fork in that road when it comes along. I don't know that there's necessarily, one experience, but it's just one of those where I think something that benefits us collectively, everybody in this room.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's an honest conversation to have about capacity. Like any one given broker can only manage and do a really great job for X amount of clients or size of deals. So I learned a really valuable lesson this year. Painful sting, one of the largest listings in the world. I lost control of that client because I was too busy with some other clients during a very difficult period. And so it taught me a really good lesson. It's delegate to your team more. It's in some cases, don't take every deal. Give it to another team member or say, no, I can't right now. And because in the long run, less stress, better job, better referrals, better reputation, and these things matter. Because ultimately you end up losing in the long run anyway if you spread yourself thin and try to make it all happen. How much is enough? That's one of the big, great struggles, I think, of what we do. We're kind of in like this single man sport, and you're really only competing against yourself. So it's finding about where's that water level that you're performing at your best, in good spirits, still taking care of your family, doing the right thing. It's interesting, because the reality is there is tech around us, but it's a low tech business we're in. It's a relationship business. You pick up the phone, you show a boat, you go on a sea trial, you go to lunch and dinner, spend time with their families. Sometimes you stay up late. So it's kind of figuring out where that balance is for you, and everybody has their own answer. So my answer is just go for bigger, more expensive boats, and then I could do more.
I think there's something to be said about that. It's especially with the younger generation. It makes, maybe we are getting older, Michael, that there's so much emphasis almost on like cultivating followings and your profile online, and kind of just like what seems to get lost sometimes. And I see this when people are supporting me, right, in maybe they're somebody that's selling us a product or working with us. They lose the art of just service the client you have better, and that person will keep on coming back. And instead of spending so much energy trying to go chase the next guy or the next 10, in the world.
I think that actually helps the industry in a whole, in a way, because it's like I don't have to have all the clients or Darren or Jeff. The reality is there's enough for everybody to go around. Just do a really good job of what you do with the people you have. Obviously, you want more, you want better. You want to grow that base. You want to share referral, and that's what we do it for every day. But it's a concept. That's all I have to say.
I've always called it the Jerry Maguire effect.
Okay.
Right, where it's one of those where you can go ahead and, like we talked about, you can go ahead and be the one to everybody, or go ahead and be more to fewer.
Sure.
And I think being more to fewer is actually a more successful platform in the long term for the industry that we're in, because it is a complicated, convoluted industry that we're in.
Yeah. I mean, clearly you're doing something right. 43 years to me is more impressive than 1,000 boats. I mean, it's a high stress, it's a tough industry. And you're doing it with a smile on your face and a throne behind you. So it's like, come on, tell us the secrets.
The other side of the coin, you're at the top of the pyramid,
Right.
which is very envious, and you started at the top of the pyramid, which is even more envious. And I sell boats to everybody. The last closing was a 42 whaler, and I'll pick off a 50-meter boat now and then, and I like to build boats, so I have 3 in build right now, under 100 feet. But what you got to remember is those 30 closings a year, that's 60 clients.
Gosh.
So that's how the numbers work for me.
Jeff, in your long tenure though, have you seen a shift in the way clients behave? Are they less loyal than they used to be? I mean, I've been in the industry, let's call it 15, 17 years. But I hear from the guys that are around a bit longer, they say, back in the day, there was fewer of us in the industry, right? And we all kind of knew Jeff had those 5 guys. Michael had these 5 guys, and he took care of Bob. Bob had his 5 guys, and Jeff would never even interfere with Bob's 5 guys. Kind of Bob's 5 guys were loyal to Bob. Your guys were loyal to you. Everybody knew who everybody's clients was. But it seems, well, at least what I understand now is Jeff is, not Jeff, but, Broker A is continuously trying to pick off everybody else's all the time. And is that clients that are causing that? They're not loyal anymore? Or is it that we've become more competitive? Or is that just, it's always been that way and just remember the old times better than they actually were?
Well, here's what's different. Back in the old days, when I started out, we controlled all the info. The listing was in a 3-ring binder that came in once a month with a central letter from the other brokers. Now your client's got all the info. You become a lot less of a need for that client. Now it's your integrity and your service and what you can do for them, because the info's out there. Every listing is available to that client. And, sure, there are guys that realize that, gee, if I go to the central agent, I'm going to save money. But maybe not. You're not going to get the service. So, I try and tell people when I am showing them boats, when I do get a couple in the car for a day and show them 5 or 6 boats, which was the only way it used to work. It used to be the magazine came out on the 15th. All your calls were in the next 3 days. You went and sent letters, went to the photo store, copied the 1-hour photos were copied, put together these little books, overnighted them out, and then these people would come and you'd drive them around for 3 days till they found a boat. And that was your client. You were going to sell them a boat. You got them to town, you'd probably sell them a boat.
Right.
And, that's changed so much that now it is the level of service you can give him rather than him just buying the boat from the listing agent.
Michael, you've only, been doing this for a relatively short period of time. Do you find loyalty with clients, or is it that you have to earn a level of loyalty, or how are you finding the loyalty level of clients?
I think you work and you earn it. So you have to always be available. You have to be in front of what they're thinking. You have to provide. You have to serve it up for them. If there's any idle, dull moment, there's another broker coming in behind, or they're getting impatient, moving on. So it's a full-on thing to earn it. And then if you're successful in the transaction, or myself, then I can build more of that relationship and loyalty. But to get on the board the first time, it's just pure hustle.
Yeah. And even then, I guess, because you can't just say, yeah, great, we got that transaction done.
Yeah.
Because then there's still other people still chasing them.
Yeah. So the whole loyalty thing, you just always have to be providing value. They don't owe me anything.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
So it's just adding value and being of service. And that was my boat show trick, by the way. If they're from out of town, you can get them to fly down to Florida, you're going to sell them a boat.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one.
One last, if anyone want to pick this up, maybe Darren, and then we'll open it up for questions. Do you have any just really good story of a client referring another client that just worked out really well instead of it coming in through the traditional marketing channels or whatever?
I think we all have a couple of stories like that, and one of the best ones is one of the trips that MarineMax had hosted with the ASMA group down in Ocean Reef. The friends had brought their friends down who were not boaters, and they just fell in love with it. So right there, it was one of those where we were already looking at moving up into a larger boat for the one client. It was one of those where we ended up we didn't need to take a trade. We just did a transaction right there on the client's boat. They put in the order for the new one, and I don't think you can have a better scenario than that.
2 transactions sitting in
2 transactions, and one of them actually didn't have to purchase it from their friends, so they were okay from that standpoint too.
Right. Very nice. Very nice.
Wow.
Any questions from the audience here? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. We have just up front here. Sure.
question.
Yeah, the question is what's your favorite book or sales book or podcast or?
The IYBA Yacht Engineering Week podcasts, obviously. God, what a silly question.
You guys got any books?
The big book, the Bible. That's my book.
All right.
The current one I have, I mean, there's so many good books and fundamental books out there. I'm reading one right now. It's called Never Split the Difference with Chris Voss. And it just takes an out of our industry approach on negotiations and tactics and people and personality. So it's just a combination of everything.
She spread them
I'll
all.
get back with you.
She should give us some lists.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Wait a second. We got one over here first.
Oh,
Sorry, just a quick question for the panel as a whole group. Do you have like 3 things that you do traditionally every single day that you've done consistently over the years that made you a success?
Like eat, love, pray.
Just good habits in your life that, you know, it's like making your bed every morning. But there's certain things you
I'll
do
go-
to
blocking
prepare
your
yourself for the
schedule.
day.
You know, it's really important to forget that we got to send boats and call clients every day. So working your database and just calling and sending boats and just the old school brokerage stuff. So a good portion of the day goes to that.
so even if you're in the middle of a deal or something else.
You have to take some time to keep feeding it because you'll end up, we close your deal and then you end up with nothing
Yep.
for the next 45 to 60 days. So you got to keep the pipeline going.
And on top of the pipeline, for me, it's one of those where it's always checking into, as we all do, with the service side. So in addition to the sales side, what can I do on the after the transaction side to make sure that everything is going as should be and the emotions are on the next trip?
I'm guessing Jeff's, he just doesn't ever sleep. That's his routine. That's how he does so many deals.
I'm up at 6. I either walk or run 2 miles, depending on my need that day. And if I'm walking, I finish up in my gym by 7:30. Every email that came in that night is answered, or yesterday. And half of them come in from the other side of the world, with being Taiwan and Turkey. So answer quick. This is first, then next thing I get to the office, I look at the new boats that came on the market in Yachtworld that day.
Good. That worked.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Hey guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing all your information. Have you found a particular CRM or data management system that works best for you and made simple?
We're just going to start with Jeff.
Yeah, he's got the best one.
I don't have one. I've never had, I used to write in a little book. Where's Laura? Well, Laura remembers this. I honestly don't have any kind of CRM management. My brain is not that good. I'll say they're in my head, but it seems to work.
Somehow.
I've
Maybe
never
we're doing it
worked for a
wrong by
big
trying
company
to
that required
waste time
one.
managing this stuff.
Zero.
Wow. That's
My
amazing.
desk is a mess, though.
That's unbelievable.
HubSpot works well.
I think we've gone through IDS, HubSpot, a couple of their CRMs, and I think at the end of the day, they all do the same thing in different steps or manners, and really it comes down to what's best for you.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all just different in how we organize our time and our schedules, and it's, you know what? I mean, you have 3 different people up here, and we do 3 different things, and it's successful for all of us. So it's just what works for you in that capacity. But if it was a purchased one, HubSpot's a good
Yeah,
one.
and you're right though. I mean, there's good times. I was really good with HubSpot for a while, and it produced. I worked for my HubSpot. I'm not good at it right now, and it's not working for me.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you the one consistency, even though each of y'all are in a slightly different market and, have a different product, the one thing I see consistently between each of you is just very hard work, like just putting a lot of hours in and focusing. And then second of all, when you call it service, I call it just focusing on the client, not on a bunch of other whatever else noise or whatever else, just keeping your eyes focused on what you're actually trying to do, which is taking care of a client and doing what's best for them. And that's the consistency I see between the 3 of you. So any other questions?
Mr. Beveridge.
Good afternoon. Where do you see yourselves in 5 years' time?
Oh, good.
oh,
Michael, you're still working, I hope.
yeah, I'm definitely working.
Good.
On my boat.
Good.
My daughter will be graduating high school, so that leaves us the option and opportunity to go ahead and spread our wings a little bit. I still see myself in this industry. It's one of those where, at the end of the day, we talked about it a little bit. I mean, I'm from outside Seattle. I grew up on the Puget Sound. You know, my mother, when I moved down to Florida, sent me my second grade homework assignment that said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" It says, "I want to be a boat seller." So this is an industry I will always be in. Where I'll be at, I do not know. MarineMax is a fantastic company and has a lot of opportunities, but I will be taking care of clients and being on the water.
Great. I'll be here. I mean, I've spent 2/3 of my career in a different industry. I'm here. I love this industry. It's just laden with opportunity, great people. It's a lot of fun. So the goal is to continue to grow Kitson and just improve on our services to help deliver better kind of experience in general for the industry.
Good.
I was supposed to retire at 1,000. I missed that.
Good view. All right. If that's it, we thank you very much for
Thank you, Tim.
your time.
Good deal.